Ladies and gentlemen, we are live with episode number 83 of Material Issues. Welcome to the holiday extravaganza. I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records, and you know who is right there. My good friend of the International Pop Overthrow Festival, David Bash. Looking
Hi,
very,
everyone.
very
Hey,
dapper
Mark.
in his record label
How's it
shirt, and one of my favorite shirts he's got on. How are
Yeah,
you doing tonight, David?
if Barry Gutman is listening, he listens to a lot of our shows.
Yeah.
I have to give him the credit. He happened to be in the UK when we were doing IPO Liverpool, and we then met up in London, and he had just come back from this shop that sold shirts, and he had this one. I don't remember. I think he was wearing it at that point, actually. And I said, "Wow, cool shirt." And he said, "Yeah, I got it down the street." And it's like, "Oh, wow, okay." So Rena and I went over there, and I got this plus a few other really cool shirts and a great leather jacket, which I've been wearing lately because it's been cold in California, but not anymore. We're now having temperatures in the high 60s into the 70s. We may even hit 80 later in the week.
Are you kidding? We're supposed to have the coldest Christmas day here in 3 decades.
I heard about that. Like the West Coast all the way to the east. I mean the Midwest all the way to the east is supposed to be well below freezing. Wow.
22 degrees during the day. Unbelievable. But
see, I don't know. I mean, I remember, as a kid growing up in New York, I remember having days that were like 10, 15 degrees. So that doesn't seem that low.
it's back in the old days before global warming.
Global warming, right. Yeah.
So,
no, you said it's one of it was the coldest in decades, though.
3 decades.
Wow. All right.
So that's still, we were not in our youth 3 decades ago. That's how old we are.
Right. Oh, no. And I certainly remember, not being bothered much by 10-degree days. It's like, all right, just put on a heavier coat and have fun. You're a kid.
I've got, speaking of shirts, this is my shirt of the night, the Misfits.
Which certainly is apropos with us.
Yeah, exactly. I figured it would be a great shirt because, with us, and it's got the Misfit toy, but it's also the band, the Misfits. So
yeah,
that's all good. Hey, holiday spoiler alert for all my friends who are getting packages from me. This is what you're getting this year. It's the Jelly Belly holiday favorites. I don't know if you can see it, but
I can. Yeah,
eggnog, candy cane, pumpkin pie, cranberry sauce, and hot chocolate Jelly Belly. So if you get a package from me, it's about this size. That's what you're getting, everybody.
Nice.
I just ruined your Christmas morning.
Cranberry sauce, by the way, spelled Bury, is the name of one of the best Swedish bands of all time. I'm sure you know them.
Yes, indeed.
I'm only thinking about them because I just happen to have this album. Richard Horn, Sounds in English. It's one of the main men from the band Indeed put out a solo record on Big Stir, and the first 4 or 5 songs remind me a lot of the band Cranberry Sauce. Really nice, soft jangle with a little bit of atmosphere. Hey, good evening, Andy.
Hello from the UK, Andy. Nice to see you. Well, this is
I have an announcement.
Oh,
okay. This will be the first place that this announcement will be heard or read. So yeah, those of you who are listening are in for a treat. For the first time ever, the International Pop Overthrow Festival will be held in, wait for it, Copenhagen. Yes, IPO Copenhagen will be June 9th and 10th at a venue called the Drop In being spelled INN.
Yes, indeed.
And Mia, the owner, has been very gracious and
nice.
Yeah. The only thing is the hours are going to be a little bit different. 2 to 9 on Saturday and 2 to 10 on Sunday. They have regular entertainment at 11 o'clock every night, and those bands have to come in for sound checks. I don't know about every night, but Friday and Saturday. So we can't really do Friday because we'd have to be done at 9, and that just isn't practical, really. But Saturday we can do the afternoon and go into early evening, and Sunday we can go till about 10 o'clock before it gets too late. So, all right, it's not the best hours, but hell, I'll take it. Yes, a closer for Cape. Well, actually, one of the manager of Caper Clowns actually had referred me to this venue last year. We couldn't make it happen then, but we have this year.
Wow!
So yeah,
congratulations, man!
IPO Copenhagen. Yes.
Nice. Well, how many cities, different cities that make it now that IPO has
ever existed? Ever. I have no idea. I'm sure. I would imagine somewhere close to 30. But
30 cities. Okay, we probably just got to ask like Dave Rave or Jeremy. They've been to them all. So.
Well, Dave Rave has been to all of the ones that existed from 2010 to 14.
Wow.
But we've done we've done a lot of one-offs. Two of which you joined me for, right. Youngstown and Cleveland.
Yeah. Nice.
And of course, Youngstown has some really hilarious memories. We know what those are. It also has really good memories, especially when. Yes, we did 4 London ones, Andy. 2011 through 14.
Well, that's going to be a book for you down the road. Is going to be my IPO memories, and I hope you're keeping notes on everything, because that would make a heck of a read about.
I'm going to have to, because by the time I write the book, I won't have any memory left.
I think you need to start writing things down or recording them every time you get a memory of a IPO, just blurt it in there and then write a book.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing the cartoon book. You'll be doing the IPO book. We'll see who gets it published first.
Well, I'm betting on you. Anyway, enough idle chit chat, because we have an esteemed guest for us this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow, wherever you are. Right. And IPO dovetails nicely, because IPO is thought of as a power pop festival. Certainly, we do showcase a lot of it. I became a huge power pop fan in the late 70s when it had its first, I guess its first renaissance. And one of the bands that I loved back then was a band who had 2 albums on Mercury Records, this being the first one. They were called the Criers, and I bought this album on site. I'm sure when you were collecting records back in the day, especially if you didn't have to pay full price, like this was a promotional copy.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it was $2.99 at a record store called Titus Oaks in Brooklyn. And I'm looking at the cover, and I'm saying, these guys look really pop. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can tell. It's just all. And then I looked at the back cover, and I said, wow, look at these song titles. Ain't It Time, Shake It Up, Ain't It Time, and Just a Little Rain, and It's Gonna Be a Heartbreaker. I said, this is a pop album. And then you look at the guy in the middle, and I said, if that's not the poppest face ever. So, I mean, I had to take a chance on it. And I brought it home and played it, and I was not disappointed. I said, yeah, this is awesome. They released another album the following year. That was back when you did get more than one album. Right. Even if your first one didn't sell, which sadly this did not, you still got a second album. And but their label Mercury Records thought enough of them to do this picture disc. They weren't doing picture discs of every band back then. So there had to have been some high hopes. Anyway, the first song on the album, "Shake It Up, Ain't It Time," wound up being the title track to this compilation on Rhino from 1991 called "Shake It Up, American Power Pop Volume 2." Yeah. It was a project that I'm very pleased to say was the first one I ever worked on with the late great Gary Stewart.
Yeah,
and we had a lot of fun doing it. And we were shouting out power pop songs, and I think I mentioned "Shake It Up," and he said, "Yeah." I mean, it's like there was we didn't have to, no ruminating over that one. It was a slam dunk.
Yeah.
And I guess Gary thought enough of it to actually make it the lead track and the title track. It is a power pop classic, and the man who wrote and sang that song, along with basically all the other Cryers tracks, who's still going strong doing music, by the way. He's our guest tonight.
Oh, tonight he's going to be on the show tonight.
Yeah, or
so he's still alive
this afternoon. Yeah, he actually is. We found him in among a pack of wolves in the Mississippi woods, and he deigned to join us. So, without further ado, would you please give a huge welcome to Mr. Lowry Hamner?
And there he is.
Hey guys,
you've never been introduced that way before.
Well, not quite, but I liked it. I liked the pack of wolves thing. That was very good.
Well, and the reason we jest is obviously we do talk with our guests pre-show, and I've talked to you a couple of days ago with Testing Connection, so we knew Lowry had a sense of humor, so we could have a good time with it. So, welcome to Material Issues, my friend. How are you this late afternoon, early evening? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, and I hope you are too. I noticed a little banner about and I've had 6 weeks of not good. It's been, oh my God, everything that's that they're warning us about. I got it. I mean, I went 2.5 years, did not get COVID. I took every precaution, the whole thing, but then everything caught up with me at once, even though I was totally vaxxed, totally boosted, totally, you name it, I was it, and it got me, I think it's whatever, but I'm feeling good now, it's, the air's clearing, and what a nice, a delightful thing that David, out of the blue, and again, I apologize, but he had sent me a text or something.
Probably an instant message.
Messenger, yeah, probably was Messenger. And maybe a couple of months ago, or anyway, I don't know what happened, but I never saw it. Maybe I was drunk and I just didn't pay attention, or
that happened.
I don't know. But
that's usually David texting. He's just like, hello.
Whatever happened when he sent me the invitation for this, I clicked on it, and then I saw, there's this other thing. Oh my God, what is this? And I look, and it's, it was a very nice, and I appreciate it, David. I really do apologize, because I was
no worries at all.
I don't ghost people, I'm pretty much, I would, if I didn't want to do it, I would pretty much just say, no, I don't think it's right. No,
I mean, look, you didn't know me. We were Facebook friends. I was real happy.
Yes.
I was real happy a few years ago when you accepted my friend request, but we really didn't know each other. So you get this message out of the blue from someone you don't know, and it's not hard to miss. I miss some, every now and then I miss some too, especially from people I don't know. So yeah, I'm glad you saw it though.
Right. I also have to say that with Facebook, I mean, I've been on Facebook. I didn't really want to get on, I'm not a big, I don't twit, because I don't want to be considered a twit, It was back in the day, that wasn't a good term,
Yeah, I know.
I was always cautious about that. And, but the thing with Facebook, they said, well, if you're going to get gigs, it's a long story, but I lived in New York for 35 years.
Oh, really? Upstate New York. That's right.
Yeah. And I lived in the East Village for 12.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
That's
21 East 2nd Street.
Nice.
Right around the corner from CB's. And the Ramones loft was catty corner to our building,
Wow.
So that was the neighborhood, and I was there for 12 years. And then things happen in life. I met somebody, and I lost my mind, and decided that I wanted to get married and actually have kids, of all things. And so, again, it's a long story, but we moved upstate. We moved to Pauling, and I lived the rest of the 35 years there.
Okay.
Now, Lowry, when I was actually brought up for my first 13 years in Poughkeepsie, so
Really? Oh, okay.
and I went to a baseball camp one summer that was in Pauling, so
Really?
in the early 70s. So I do know that.
Wow.
When
Was
were
it
you?
YMCA complex by any chance?
It may very well have been.
Oh, okay. Just
but it had a
curious.
lot of baseball fields on it, obviously. So
Yeah, yeah.
But when were you in Manhattan? Which years?
Okay, we the Criers, and that's a story in itself.
Well,
But the Criers moved from Meridian, Mississippi, to Manhattan in September of 1976.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we, we were, there's a word that's going to come up frequently, I think, tonight in our discussions, and it's green. Because we were green. I won't say naive because I think that's a euphemism for stupid, but
that was prime time. I mean, September of 76 onward. Holy cow.
Yeah, and just before the power pop, the explosion happened.
Yes.
Did you, I mean, the term power pop had been coined by Pete Townsend in 1967 to describe the Who's music, but it really didn't catch on with the general public or even record collectors until Greg Shaw kind of brought it back with his Bomp Records magazine, or his Bomp magazine, rather. And it was used to describe the kind of music that you guys were doing, as well as so many other bands at the time. Did you ever, I mean, at the time, did you consider yourself power pop? Did you even know the phrase? What did you think of yourselves?
We didn't. We just thought we were rock.
Yeah.
We just thought we were a rock band. And rock meant that you could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, in the early days, rock just encompassed like so much, and you just had a freedom of, there always were labels, of course, there was country rock, there was, but even that was later, but it's weird because, we didn't really, we just thought we were a rock band. And, it's weird. We went to CBGB's was headquarters in more ways than one.
Right.
Hilly ended up managing us. Hilly got us our apartment at 21 East 2nd Street. He lived there. He had an apartment there, and with the Salukis. And I don't know if you know about Hilly and the Salukis, but oh my God, they're beautiful dogs. But it was crazy. And anyway, I don't know.
Was it culture shock at all coming from you had to be coming from Mississippi? Because where were you? Where in Mississippi were you from? Were you a small town?
See, I'm a service brat.
Okay,
so I lived first 6 years in Terry, Mississippi, which is a really small town. It's a lot bigger now because it's a suburb of Jackson. But at that time, it was actually a little town. I mean, it wasn't even a one light town. It was a no light town. It was a just drive right through. The highway went through, but it was,
Yeah.
And so I was from Terry. So I'm not a country boy. I'm not a city boy. I'm a small town boy, I'm like a little town boy, basically.
But there's still a huge difference between even Jackson, Mississippi, and then moving to Manhattan.
Oh yeah. When they used to take me to Jackson when I was a little kid, the first movie I ever saw, that went to a movie and got left by myself. I think I was 4 or 5 years old. I mean, can you imagine that? And
I know back then it
didn't seem weird. It was Peter Pan, it was like, and they went shopping, I saw it 3 times. It was great.
Yeah. And they were shopping and you were just in the movie theater. That's awesome.
But what happened, my dad was he was an Army pilot. And he was like all that. He was, 4 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 21 Air Medal. He was that guy. Well, I had my 6th birthday on the USS America going to Germany, to Europe.
Wow.
And because he was stationed over there. So I lived in Europe for, 3 years. And then we moved back and Colorado, lived in Colorado and lived in El Paso and lived in, a little bit in Oklahoma and a little bit, you know how it is with service guys, And so I had been around. I was not unfamiliar with cities,
Yeah.
It wasn't the city aspect that threw us. The truth is, when we hit New York, I've always had a pretty good sense of reading people. I usually get I usually have pretty good radar. It works well. And
I better go. I better
I was
go.
gonna say, see you later.
But it pretty much has all my life, But when we hit New York, I couldn't figure New Yorkers out because they were just so different. Just the way they were was so different than anything I'd been exposed to anywhere in the world, really. And it was weird because they were the truth is, everybody puts down New York, but I met the nicest people in New York.
Absolutely.
Helped us, went out of their way. It was like astounding. It broke every stereotype, but it was wonderful. But the thing is, I couldn't read them. They all seemed like they were up to something,
That's so interesting because the stereotype, of course, of New Yorkers is, for better or worse, they let you know how they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So emotions definitely run, they run much more outwardly than they might in certain other cities, like LA, which has the stereotype of people being friendly but being fake.
Yeah,
so in New York, you knew what you were getting. But interestingly enough, you didn't feel that way. I know what you're talking about because I attended New York University from 78 through 81. So
wow, okay.
We were probably in some of the same record stores before
I'm sure.
before I'd seen your picture, and it was like, oh man.
Yeah, you can count on that. Definitely.
Now, Larry, there are people checking in that are saying things, but they're not logged into StreamYard, so we don't know who they are. So, people, if you're checking in and it comes up Facebook user, well, just drop your name. Let us know who's saying hi to Lowry, because it could be somebody he knows, and you might want to say hi. So,
declare yourself.
Yeah, declare yourself.
Declare yourself.
Now, Larry, I imagine in Mississippi, and here's another stereotype, but in Mississippi, I assume there weren't too many bands doing what you guys were doing.
No.
Did you feel like you stood out like a sore thumb, or did you feel you fit in with a scene in Meridian?
Well, I have to say, in Meridian was when I moved to Meridian. I love Meridian because it was such an incredible place. It was amazing. I mean, I've never seen a music scene like that. I had never seen a music scene like that. And when my dad retired, we moved back to Mississippi, and I went to high school down here on the coast in Gulfport. I live in Gulfport, Mississippi. And right on the Gulf Coast,
Isn't that where Brett Favre is from?
Well, Brett's from a little farther north in a town called, I think he's from the Kill.
Oh, okay.
Or Kiln, Kiln, but the Kill, but you get bad reputations from a lot of things. I love Brett Favre as a football player, man. He was incredible, but like some athletes, there are other aspects where you got
absolutely.
Oh no, that never occurred to me.
But yeah, we're just south. Right, we're just south of that. It's right on the Gulf. I mean, I'm a block and a half from the Gulf.
Wow.
And it's very cool. And the coast has always had a big. It was called the Redneck Riviera.
I love that.
Yeah, and it was crazy. When I moved here, I thought I died and went to heaven because I was underage, but it didn't matter, It was like liquor. It was illegal to sell liquor in Mississippi.
Mm.
So what they did was they paid off the sheriff and they paid everybody off, and the mafia ran everything. So things were cool,
Yeah.
This was like the good mafia, I mean, they were killing people, but only people that got out of line,
They were killing people, but they were
yeah, but if you behaved yourself and spent money, you were okay. If you tried to go into their territory, then you were in trouble. But
right.
So I had a fake ID when I was, I think, 16. It said I was 21. When I was 16, I looked like I was like 11. One of those kind of things. And it didn't matter as long as I had a little ID that,
Right.
And so that's the way it was. It was
the
great.
good old days. Yeah.
Music all over the place. But the scene down here, it's almost always has been. It is now and almost always has been, with a few exceptions. It's cover music, it's clubs that just do cover stuff. That's the way, like in Meridian, we were doing, the clubs that we played in, you asked, how did we feel about it? They would say when we would come in, they would hire us and we would come in and they would say, no original music.
Yeah.
There was a policy, no original music, so we would go
arrow to the heart.
So we would say, we would play our original music. We were like, who cares? And we would say, okay, now here's one from the as a B-side on the and play it, and people react, if they think that it's something,
right,
then they're open to liking it.
That's genius. Saying your original songs were covers. I love that.
Oh, we did that all the time. I mean, we just did it like constantly because you really had to. There was like one little club down in Meridian where you could go and you could kind of, fess up and just say, okay, we're going to do what we do. And this is some of our stuff. Of course, we were playing cover stuff because, that's what bands do. That's right. How you learn, how you get into, So that's what we were doing. But when I started teaching myself guitar at 15, 16, the first 3 chords I learned, I wrote a song.
Yeah.
So of course I wanted to do them, it's like, it wasn't like I was writing millions of songs because I wasn't, but, I always had that in me and I always really enjoyed it and liked it. And so
I assume the Beatles were a major influence, obviously listening to your music. And who else?
Major. The Beatles, well, I'll put it this way. I don't want to ruffle feathers or anything. I'm very eclectic. I love so much different music.
Right.
It's a it's a gift, but it's also it works against you because I like so many different kinds of music that you can't, you almost have to kind of say, what master are you going to serve in a way if you're going to really be in the business and do, Yeah. And I just wanted to go, but the Beatles were it. Beatles and Bob Dylan, they're here. They're like here, And all these other incredible people who I, was just in awe of their talent and how great they were, they were here. And that's not putting them down.
Sure.
It's just that the Beatles, I mean, I still am astounded by the Beatles because I don't sit around and listen to Beatle music, but I do put it on, I have it in my car, I listen to it and it still astounds me because I get that same feeling. That's the thing.
And what's amazing, this is show number 83. And David, I think you'll agree with me here. So many artists that we've interviewed and asked, who turned you on first, or always. I'd say 99% of the time it's always been, the Beatles,
Yeah. Did you see them on Ed Sullivan?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's
absolutely. I think it was the first time that I ever, my dad commanded the television set.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a weird thing with Ed Sullivan for whatever reason. He had a weird thing with Ed Sullivan. So he was really not into watching Ed Sullivan.
Oh, okay.
I think it was the first time I ever just stood up and said, we're watching Ed Sullivan, and we did.
Wow.
And we did, But I had seen the Beatles on Jack Parr. I loved Jack Parr. I was a Jack Parr nut. And I was a weird kid, so... But
join the club.
he had a thing before the Beatles ever had a record out in America or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
He had. Have you seen that, Mark?
Yep.
You know, and I'm watching Jack Parr, and you know how he was like, kind of nervous, and oh, you just won't believe this, and there's this, and oh, my people are going crazy, and blah blah blah, and I'm like, wow. And I was a music nut all my life. My mom was a music nut, that's where I got it, and anyway, the Beatles come on.
Yeah.
And I searched for them for what, 3-4 months, just like radio, like where are they? This is like the best thing I've ever heard in my life. But of course, I was a rock and roll. Early rock and roll that's my wheelhouse, where I love that stuff.
Yeah,
I love it. We were talking about Rocky Burnett.
Yeah.
And the Burnett's, I mean, I love that stuff. I really do. It hits me where you want to get hit, but the Beatles exploded my mind. The Beatles made me say, wow, I'm going to learn how to play guitar. I'm going to, like, maybe I'm not crazy, like, they write their own songs. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
They gave, yeah. And I'm sorry.
I was going to say, were you brought up to New York after you were signed by Mercury or prior?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. No. Tell us that whole story and how you ended up being signed by really one of the most prestigious labels around at that time.
Yeah. How much time do we have?
I know.
Before you jump into that, Larry, I want to make sure, just so you know, a couple of people are checking in with their names. They wanted to say hi. There's Lisa.
Oh, hey, Lisa. I know Lisa.
There's Lynn.
Lynn's from New York. Hey, Lynn. Wow.
There's somebody that looks familiar. I'm not sure.
Cindy Hammer. I know her well.
And you
I do know her very well.
Look at this.
I'm in Nell, my next door neighbors. There you go. Okay. This is very nice.
All right. But I just want to make sure you acknowledge some people that took the time to put their names in and say hi.
So. That's so nice. Thank you.
It's really nice. Yeah. Back to your story.
Okay. Well, how did we get signed to Mercury? Truth is, we specifically came to New York to see if we could get a record deal. That was it. That was the deal. Can we get a record deal? And I had been to Nashville, Kyle Lenning. I had met Waylon Jennings, and Waylon was very nice to me and everything. And Kyle Lenning he worked in Waylon's studio. And a guy named Parker McGee. Well, first, my story really starts. My first experience was with Sam Phillips.
Yeah.
And Ray Harris. And
right.
it's like so much in my life. I'll put it this way. That whole period was a Charles Dickens period. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times, and that's kind of the way it was, actually. It's amazing, and looking back, it was the best of times, but it was there were a lot of train wrecks. But anyway, we got to New York. We immediately hit the clubs. Like, first time, if we have time, I'll tell you a story about, we stayed at the Hotel Earl. I don't know if you know the Hotel Earl.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Right on Washington Square. It's kind of infamous, we had no idea, Anyway, so we started hitting the clubs, going down, checking everything out, and just trying to get gigs. I mean, we were pretty shy people, but we were very forceful about what we wanted to do. So we were cool. When we first went to CBGB's pretty much immediately. And Roberta Bailey, I don't know if you know Roberta, but Roberta was, she was a CB's, and she was at the door, and we went up, and she said, it'll be $5 or whatever. And we went, what? We're musicians, and she was like musicians don't pay to get into a club, so we kind of badgered her, and she said, okay, we're like, we want to get a gig. We're, like, what's going on here? So she was very, very nice. She let us in, and we went in and we started just talking to whoever was there, can we get a gig? We want a gig, and of course, when you're trying to get a gig, it's really, it's hard to, it's not like they go, oh, we've been looking for you,
We've got
Not as CBGBs anyway.
We've got all these slots open. Thank God you came in.
Exactly. But we kept hammering away. And they did have a thing where in the old CBs, they had the stage, the main stage, but they had this little stage that was like if the stage is here, okay, I'm getting turned around. The stage is here, and to the side, there's a small stage over on the left as you're entering the club. And it was for smaller things, and so they would have tryouts, basically,
Oh, wow.
And so they said we could try out. So we went in and we played. Charlie Martin was doing the sound. Hey, Charlie, if you're watching, I don't know if you are, but I miss you, bud. Charlie, he told Hilla, we should get these guys in here, and so that's how it started. And so then we started, just making little chipping away. Same thing happened at Max's Kansas City. We got into Max's like kind of the same way. And so then we started playing around, but CB's was, that was ground zero kind of for everything.
Obviously you guys could play to impress people enough that you could keep getting gigs. You weren't young hacks that couldn't push. So
I have to say, I don't want to brag, but I think we had a really good band. Clay Barnes, I think he's one of the best guitar players. He was like incredible. We were good. Question is, were we doing what people wanted to hear? Because it was punk. We were not punk, but the great thing about CBGBs, and Hilly always, like when he started it, CBGBs, country, bluegrass, blues, he had he did have a vision, and it was a different kind of vision, different than it turned out, but anyway, so a lot of different acts played there. I saw the Police were there for their first gig in America. They weren't punk. Well, they were kind of,
they were certainly new wave.
Yeah, they were edgy. New wave.
They were. Yes. See, that's what happened. I think, as you talk about power pop. The punk kind of made things a little more edgier with pop music. At that time, right. We were just a little ahead of the curve. With the power pop thing, actually, we were kind of doing what people were calling power pop, but it didn't really hit for like a couple of years.
Right.
It's weird, timing's everything. So,
and at the same time, when you're playing live, you could be a lot edgier, louder, brasher than what comes across in your recordings.
Oh, our recordings.
Listen to the Ramones recordings.
Yeah.
But every time I saw the Ramones live, it was not what you heard on record.
No.
Live, they were just killing you with volume and nastiness and whatnot. And then the record, really poppy, very pop.
Yes. Oh, they were very pop. That was their deal, really.
So
they
a lot
turned it up, and
like bands were like that.
But yeah.
They were so influenced by the whole girl group thing, so they couldn't help but be pop.
Absolutely. And
so
that's Joyce. I'm sorry.
That's just the difference of playing live and getting gigs, and you can be a lot more powerful than what really turns out.
And here was the other thing, though. You guys had enough guts to come into a club and say, "We want a gig. We're good enough. You have to give us a shot." I don't know that for two things. Number one, I'm sorry that whole model has been lost to the internet and to sending to. First it was sending demo tapes, and then it was sending files online. The good old days were where you could actually walk into a place, maybe the owner would be there, and say, "We want to audition for you," and impress them, and they'd start giving you gigs. And you had enough confidence to go in there and say, "Yeah, we're good," and that had to have helped.
Yeah, confidence is one word. You know, there are other words for it. You know, maybe we just were stupid enough to do it. You know.
Well, there you go.
never know. But
how were you funding your life while you were trying to do this?
Funding?
Yeah.
Before we left,
I was curious because you're like, well, we all
$5. We're not paying that. We don't have that.
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't. I mean, that's the truth. What we did before we went, we started saving X amount of money, saying, okay, we're going to need a little bit just to live on, because we're going to have to like find a place to stay, and we're going to just, so we're going to, but we didn't have much. We literally rented a van, put our stuff in it, said, okay, each member can bring so many records, because we didn't have, there was no room because we had all our equipment in there.
Right.
And the van didn't even have a back seat. We went and got folding chairs. And we sat on folding chairs. And
there
then
has to be a picture. Yeah. You don't have a picture of you guys sitting on folding chairs in the back of a van driving from Mississippi.
There probably is somewhere. But see, this was, it's hard to imagine that there weren't like iPhones always,
Yeah.
But back then people didn't have phones, so, and then the van broke down halfway there. So we switched. So we switched vans to another one that didn't have a back. We're still in the folding chairs. There's two front seats, the driver's seat and the other. Anyway, we get up to New York and we go in. We go in. It was we were like, oh my God, this is like it's like going into Oz. It was incredible. We were just high, just on life.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh my God, like, what are we going to do now? Because so we backed the van against a brick building. So saying maybe they won't be able to open the doors and break in. They didn't know, Anyway, so we started hitting the things. And the truth is, people started kind of getting to know us, like people kind of started to come calling.
Wow.
It was weird. There was a guy named Joey Grossman. He saw us in Seabees, approached us. He wanted to manage us. We were like, nah, I don't know. I don't know if we're ready for a man, and we didn't know him from, Adam, of course.
Right. Yeah.
Great guy. Joey, I apologize for not letting you manage us, because things would have been different had we done it. It would have. It one of many mistakes we made, but Joey was like, man, he was on it. He said, well, would you mind, he said, do you have any demo tapes? Well, we had home demo tapes we made in our apartment or before we came. They were pretty crude.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he said, would you mind giving me a little reel and if I take it around? He's the one that got us the gig at Mercury.
Oh,
he took that tape, and Steve Katz heard it. And when Steve finally came around and we started talking, Steve said, as soon as I heard Steal Away, I said, I got to sign these guys. This is it. So you never know how things are going to happen. But in the meantime, there were two guys, Ted and I can't remember the other guy's name. They had managed the Doors.
Mm-hmm.
Out in California. They came around. It was a great story with that, but again, I don't know how much time we've got. But we had rented an apartment on East First and First Avenue, and house, where Katz's Delicatessen is.
Very well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, me too. For many different reasons. We were catty corner to Katz's.
Okay.
Over on the First, across the street. And we got this apartment, and we went in. It was a crazy apartment that, of course, had the bars and all that on the, and the things.
Sure.
I called it the monastery because it was dark, and it was, they had these little cubicles that they had obviously, it was like VRBOs before they had those, like they had made my bedroom was, I don't know, you could fit a bed and maybe a table in there, it was like one of those things. And anyway, they came, they wanted to talk to us. They came in. Well, in the meantime, the electricity had been turned off. We didn't know that when you paid the rent, that wasn't part of the thing.
Oh my God.
The people that lived there previously had had broken into the electrical grid, and they were like getting free electricity. Unbeknownst to us. But when we were there, we'd been there for, I don't know, not that long really. But anyway, Con Ed found out. And so they said, so they cut the power off. So we were like, oh my God, and whatever figure they said we owed was like impossible.
Right.
So we had no electricity. So we had candles everywhere. So Ted and this other guy come over to talk to us about managing us, and they open the door, and you can see instantly, like they knock on, open the door, and you can see instantly that their faces were just like they were walking into a horror film. It was like, oh my God, So they were scared. You could tell they really were scared, and they were nervous, and so they, come on in. They were like, is everything okay? We're like, well, yeah, relatively, come on in, it's okay, and so they were like, finally one of them, like, he said, is this a religious thing? And so we're like, no, we're poor people, we're trying to we're looking to get a record deal. This is the only way we can do it, So anyway, that fell through. That fell through. But we did go do a demo up in the big RCA studios, which was great. So I got to go in RCA studios. Nice. So that was like really cool. I mean, Elvis was,
yeah.
Frank Sinatra was at Elvis, in RCA. I mean, it's a historical anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of fell through. Different people were kind of coming, and and Hilly was expressing interest. And it just kind of happened organically like that. And finally, one day, it kind of was a thing. We didn't have a phone. When we were 22nd, we didn't have a phone. So Cats called CBGB's, the phone booth. That was the phone. That was our phone, And so Cats called CBGB's. Somebody at CB's answered the phone and said, I'm looking for these guys, the Criers, I need to get in touch with them, because I'm from Mercury Records and blah, blah, blah. And so one of them ran around the corner and came up and said, there's a guy that wants to talk to you from Mercury Records, So I went to CBGB's, got in the phone booth,
Like this reminds me of reading about the book, The Glory of Their Times, about baseball players from like the turn of the 20th century, and like how you had to reach them, like, or like Green Acres or something. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it was another world. I mean, it really was, And anyway, so Steve was like, "Well, we're really interested in you guys." So he was like, "So, who's your manager?" I talked to like 3 different people who all kind of, is Hilly your manager, or is like Joe, or like what's going on, like who do I talk to, So I was like, well, I think it's going to be Hilly, but but you just have to talk to us, because it's an unanswerable question.
We don't know.
Well, in the meantime, even before that, I had met Allen Ginsberg. And so we became friends,
Oh, nice.
He was a really nice guy. We were in the other end, or the bitter end.
Right.
But we were in the other end, which is, it was the little place, it was part of the bitter end, but it's where they,
Right.
And we played there a few times. Anyway, Alan's sitting over there, and me and Clay go there to get something to eat. And we look over, and there's Allen Ginsberg. So it's like, oh my God, it's Allen Ginsberg, So we were like, he's like looking at us like, oh my God, but he came over. So we started talking. He gave us the test. Oh yeah, you like myself? Like, what do you like? Like, what have you read? Well, we had both read a lot of his stuff. So
Mhm.
we convinced him pretty quickly that, yeah, right. You know, so he turned out to be this sweetheart, great guy. So we walked over. He went home with us that night, and we sat and drank in over on First Street. Over at that apartment. With the candles,
Mhm.
and which he didn't find that odd. So so that was
We're that religious.
So Alan said, I got to get you an appointment. So Alan came, he saw us and everything. And he said, I got to let you know John Hammond, because he was working with John.
Sure.
And I mean, they were like, John Hammond, and he's like, yeah, I've been doing recordings, and we've been working together for a while. And so he got us an appointment with John Hammond. So we went up and talked to John Hammond, and he listened, and he said there was one song that he just flipped. He went, he's a real patrician kind of guy, and he said, now this is worthy of Columbia Records. And he said Columbia Records like it was like the gates of heaven, I mean, with reverence almost,
Yeah.
But we kind of felt that way too, if you know what I mean,
Sure.
But he said, but I'm not sure that you're exactly ready yet. He said, but I want you to bring me some more stuff as you're doing it. And I think you have a future here. And in the meantime, there was a woman named Karen Berg who was with, I think, Warner Brothers. And she was expressing interest, not an offer. She didn't say, I want to sign you guys, but she was, expressing interest. She said, really like you guys. And again, it was, well, let's see if they have another song. You know what I mean? It was kind of like that.
Is this Steal Away you're still talking about?
No. The one that John Hammond flipped out was, oh God. I can't even think of the name of it now. I have the records here, but in case I forget all these things. But
something that wound up on the first album, you mean?
Yeah. It was here.
I was going to guess it.
I was gonna just. You got it there anyway. So.
Well, no, I don't have it. I don't have the first one here.
Here we go. So I don't know if you can see this, Lowry, but
I can't. But it's Diamond Ladies.
Oh, Diamond Ladies.
It was Diamond Ladies. Yeah, like he loved Diamond Ladies. He was like, this is worthy of Columbia Records. And I was like, yowza, okay. In the meantime, Karen, we were getting little feelers. It kind of just hits and interest and stuff. But then Cats, Steve just said, no, we want to sign you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of said, well, we'll go with Hilly. And we were green. I mean, Mercury, we were like, wow, Mercury's like it's a respectable label, it's
absolutely it was.
That's like, wow, I mean, but we didn't know. I mean, we actually talked amongst ourselves and said, does it really make a difference like what record label you're with? Like if you have a good record, like they're all just going, they put it out and then tell people about it, right? I mean, we were very, we didn't know. And Mercury, was kind of going through a weird period, Mercury poisoning.
Right.
A song was written by Graham Parker.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so again, the best of times, the worst of times.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we signed with Mercury, and that's how we ended up doing that. And then soon after that, we were told by some different people that also kind of wanted to manage us, but we realized that we signed really bad contracts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really bad.
Yeah.
Hilly had a lawyer named Joe Zinzak, and he was a good lawyer, man. He was really good. He was sharp, but it was all the money went to Hilly, and so we, when we kind of woke up from that, and then it was, so we got into litigation. That's why the first record, it got put out, but it hit that stone wall. Once we got into the thing with Hilly, boy, the waters parted and everything shut down. Because nobody wants to get dragged into litigation.
Yeah.
Because they're going to become part of it.
Yep.
And the record company's the one that's going to pay for all that stuff, and that's the way the record business works. And we were actually told that, don't worry about it, like the record company's going to take care, they're, whatever the settlement is, they're going to do it. And then, so it was a train wreck from, it was self-inflicted. It was a self-inflicted. We shouldn't have done it. We should have ridden the whole thing out and seen what developed. And then, what you learn when you're in the business is the record business is sign a deal and then renegotiate. If you have any success, you renegotiate, and that's what everybody does. That's what everybody did then. You get an advance. We didn't get much of an advance. We were like, we moved from Mississippi to New York to get on the plantation. We were getting like doled out, like, it was like sharecropping. It's like, where's the money? We signed up. It was a big deal. I mean, those records cost a lot of money.
You can tell they're very well produced. They're pro all the way.
Well, thank you.
And I mean, not to interrupt, but only because we could go on for like 4 hours. But
yeah, that's what I say.
But train wreck or not, money or lack thereof or not, especially this album, it's a classic in my opinion. And
thank you.
Although your legacy will always be Shake It Up, especially because of this, and I want to get into this with you a little bit. But
I want to show you something.
Oh, there you go.
Wow, there you go. Long box.
Back in the day, this is how we sold records, because there were still albums in the bins. Record bins, and you couldn't put CDs in them. So this was the answer.
The long box.
And I was delighted to see that you worked on it, that you did that, because this was such a, it was just great, David. I have to tell you.
It was an honor for me to work with Gary Stewart, especially. I had known him for a few years and got to know him a lot better during the process. But I want to play a song from the album that I think is, among the best, for lack of a better term, power pop ballads. And yes, there is such a thing, because it basically has a similar melodic structure, but obviously softer and slower. This song, I think, is really among the best of all time, and I want everybody to hear it. It's a song called Just a Little Rain, which the first time I heard this, I just was like, every neuron in my head was started to explode. So for those of you who don't have this album, you especially need to hear this song. So I'm going to play it, and you two be damned. Don't get in our way here. Oops. What happened?
Well, that was good.
Oh, no, hold on.
The intro.
They can hit us with an ad. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Clay.
Nice. What year was this recorded, Lowry?
78.
Classic.
When I would hear that song, I would often close my eyes and romantically, not sexually, but romantically fantasize about the women who I had crushes on who I couldn't get, which is exactly what power pop is all about. But there's two things about that song I particularly love beyond the song itself. The fact that, you know, in each verse, especially in the Just a Little Rain parts, each succeeding verse, there was something added, like a guitar lick or keyboard or something. But the bridge of that song, especially, it has to be among like my top 20 bridges of all time by anybody.
Thank you. Wow, thank you. That's such a great compliment.
I wish it had been a big hit. But getting back to Mercury, I know they didn't give you the money. Did they at least get you good gigs? Were you on some really good shows? Did you get to open for some pretty cool bands? No,
well, not really. I mean, we opened for some people. I mean, and we were doing in clubs. We were headlining a lot of the clubs. In New York. But no, we didn't really do the tour. We didn't do that part of it.
Wow.
Didn't happen.
You would have thought it would have been ripe for American Bandstand or something.
I was going to say, you guys were not on that?
No. See, what happened was it all became rudderless, if you know what I mean. Once all of that process got, started, and it just became like a crazy time where it's like who's on first, and like Mercury did we did a video of 3 songs. This is when MTV was it wasn't even like really starting yet,
right?
And they got this big place and brought it was like a movie set, and we did a video of 3.
Which songs?
Pardon?
Which songs?
We did Shake It Up, Just a Little Rain.
Oh.
Yeah, because here's the other, and we did what was I can't remember what the other one was.
Gonna Be a Heartbreaker, maybe, because that was
that was the single.
That should have been a single, yeah.
That was the single they released, but they should have released, Shake It Up was the single.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to. I think you don't have to be a genius to know that. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that. You know,
the first track on the album, especially, you'd think it would have been the single.
Exactly, but there were so many extenuating circumstances. And now everything went into, like we went in more studios. First of all, the producer Michael Sherman, who a Canadian guy, but was living in New York. Great guy. We really liked Michael, and I think he did a really good job. But his father became really ill and died, but not right away. But Michael had to leave. It was at the end of the project, when in the mixing and that kind of stage, and so we did a mix. He went to Toronto and couldn't come back for a while, and so we said, well, we'll just wait, and when he comes back, we'll finish it. But it was like, no, that's not what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to we went up to Toronto and did a mix. There are so many different mixes of this record. It's crazy. And you know what? The early ones. Now, David, you showed this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it with the glare.
Yep. And we can, yeah.
Okay, you showed this. Now, this has got you probably haven't played the picture disc.
No, I have not.
They're notorious for not having the greatest sound.
Right.
But I have to tell you that there are different versions. I mean, if you want to hear the original, it's going to be a heartbreaker. The original was saxophone on it, and
oh wow,
the way the Criers did it is on this.
Oh wow.
Almost everything on this record is an earlier mix or a different version.
Oh man, now I'm gonna play it.
So it's interesting, and I think it's the record, but it didn't end up. I mean, it didn't end up being the record,
There you go. You heard it here on Material Issues. I don't know how many people would have known that, but the picture disc is a completely different mix than.
I'm so glad I have it.
And different versions on some
versions. Wow.
So
I have to ask you about one song here. I'm sorry. I'm on Fire, number 5.
Yeah.
Was the number 5 added to keep it apart from the Dwight Twilley hit?
Partly, yes. Partly,
Not
yes.
that it sounds anything like. If anything, to me, it sounds like a Springsteen song with all the sax.
It is kind of, yeah, it is kind of. Or maybe even Lou Reed,
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the thing about that album. You said you were influenced by so many things and you love so many different styles of music. I mean, this isn't completely a power pop album. It's got it's got all kinds of sounds on there.
Yeah. Again, I hate to go back to it, but the Beatles, like they had records that you didn't. What's going to come next? What? And that was kind of the way we felt, was like it doesn't all have to be the same thing. It's like it can be interesting. But
what happened now?
I'm on Fire. I'm sorry, but I'll tell you a quick story. We went into CI Studios, which was a jazz studio Mercury owned in New York. Small studio. We went in and we did some demos, and it was to get us kind of used to the studio, but also to just get some songs down where they could hear the songs and pick kind of what they thought should be on the album. Right. But then it turned into Michael Sherman coming in, and could we work together? How would it go? And we did CI demos, and I think that's the way the Criers sounded, and that could have been the record also. I love it.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, you were involved in the litigation, which made the record more or less stillborn and prevented you from getting a lot of the opportunities you should have. Yet you were able to stay on the label and do the second record. Yes. How did that even work? I'm surprised. Kind of like with Boston, when they were in litigation, they couldn't do any more records. They couldn't leave the label, the whole bit. I mean, how is it that you could do this?
Well, they put us on ice for a lot of things, but they, I have to say, Steve Katz, they still thought that they still thought that, we could break, that it could happen. I mean, there were people that thought we could, that we could do it. I mean, I see, Steve and I still, I'm still friends with Steve.
Oh.
And almost every time I go to New York, we get together, and he almost always inevitably at some point goes, I just can't believe you didn't make it. I can't believe you're not a star, and I'm like, well, no, but they had, faith, but that turned into a train wreck too, because he said, okay, there was this guy, the guy that produced the second record, wanted to produce the first one and really put in the big moves about how much he loved the group and he wanted to do it, and and it ended up where he didn't do the first, and then kept it up with he wanted to do the second and all this, and we said no. We wanted Steve to do it. I said, let's do it in New York, and you produce it. You produce it with us, and and that's the way we'll do it, and we'll get a great record. And again, we had gone into CI and done demos of a lot of the songs on the second record, some of them. But Mercury changed presidents in this little interim, like that interim.
The worst.
And this is something most people have no idea about, but it happens so frequently in the record business. I have good friend Willie Nile. I don't know if you know Willie or remember.
Yeah, I love Willie now.
Willie was a good friend of ours. We all hung around. It was the Cryers, Steve Forbert, Willie Nile, Mark Johnson. We were all buddies, and some others as well. But that was the, well, Willie, he put out his records, and then kind of whatever happened, and then he got signed to one of the Sony labels and something.
Right.
And same thing happened to him. New president comes in, and when a new president comes in, whoever signed, the last president was there when you got signed. It's not their signing, and they know that, okay, if it's a success, the industry is going to say, well, that wasn't your sign, and you don't get credit for that.
Right. Yeah.
And so it chills a lot of, you wouldn't believe how many people get, that happens to in the business. A lot of really good acts that,
it's a common tale. Yeah.
It is, and it's a shame, because everybody should get credit, because, the thing is, as we learned, and as anybody in the record business knows, it's can you break a record? How can you do it? That's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it's silly, but it's just power games, which power games, whether it's in politics or it's in record business or if it's in, the high school,
even trying to book bands at a club, or when I book my music festival, if I have a good relationship in a club and then suddenly the booking people change or the ownership change, it's like, suddenly
Absolutely.
they may not want you,
Absolutely.
They don't know who you are. And it's like,
yeah,
terrible.
Definitely. Yeah. Been there, done that,
What happened after the second album's release? It doesn't do great, obviously.
No, well, what happened was we went out to LA, which we didn't really want to do. And, we get there, and the very first night, the guy comes over. I don't even want to say his name, because I'm like, the thing is, I feel sorry for him. I mean, he, but there was so much, I don't hate the guy, but I just, I'm just disgusted by him, because
you're talking about Donald Trump right now. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. How'd you know? Anyway, he kind of kicked us when we were down. Yeah. We made that record out in LA. We had been through hell. I mean, really hell, with lawyers and, with everything on every level. Mm-hmm. It was like a train wreck. And we were living, we had pretty good times. We were people who enjoyed life. And
I'm
so
sure.
we've been through a lot, you know, and the first day we get there, he shows up at our, well, they had rented like bungalow kind of things. And he shows up and he says, "Hey guys, guess what I got? You know, I got a great surprise for you." And this is the guy that, you know, like, just, you know, he had to produce the record. He loves the cry. He gets there and he says, "I want you to hear this." And he puts on this thing. I don't know. I think it was a tape. Yeah, it had to be a tape at that time. And he puts on a tape, and it's LA musicians playing the Cryer's second record.
No.
And he said, "Doesn't this sound great? And Larry, you just come in and sing." And
oh my God.
And we were just like,
Really?
Oh my God.
They had to pull me off of him. I mean, literally.
Wow.
You know, I mean, it was like, you know, I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Like, I still can't believe it. Like, who would do that? Do you know that he didn't pay us we didn't get one penny for recording that whole record.
Oh my
We were out there 9 weeks. We didn't get paid for one session. And it all went up his nose, you know. It's like,
oh yeah.
What it's
Sure
the thing
did.
about him, he did some good things, and like I say, I feel sorry for him, and you know, all that. But he kicked us when we were down. That's the reason that I have just a bad feeling
Sour taste
about it. Anyway, but we did the record. And we were, you know, we quickly said, you know, you take this, you know, you're out of here. You know, if we're going to do this record, this is crazy. It ain't going to happen. So he quickly retreated and said, "Okay, we'll go in and we'll, you know." Anyway, we did the record. He cooperated with a lot of stuff. You know, some of it was good. I got a horrible sinus infection. Lost my voice. So when I was singing, I was not feeling like the best, you know, but anyway, it ended up being, you know, to his credit, he said, "Who do you want to play on the record? Like, you want to get people to, you know," and we told him some names, and he got them. And one of them was Garth Hudson. We told him, we want Garth. And he said, "You can't get Garth." And we said, "Well, ask." And he said, "Garth won't do it. Garth doesn't do that. You know, Garth's not going to do it." So he said, "Ask, just ask. Let him say no. You know, give him an opportunity to say no." Sure. Garth shows up at the studio. The first thing he says, "Thanks, guys." He said, "I can't believe it. Nobody asked me to do sessions. Everybody thinks I won't do it." I swear to God, it's the first thing he said to us.
A life lesson right there. You should always ask. It's
like, you know. But we got, you know, Alan Pasqua. Now, I will say, Mason, his name's Jim Mason. You know, he wrote I Dig Rock and Roll Music. Yeah, he wrote that song. He produced, you know, he produced Firefall, and I mean, he had done some stuff.
Sure.
He wasn't like a, you know. Anyway, he got Jerry Jumonville. I don't know if you know Jerry Jumonville. He's a sax player. He played on, you know, and man, you know, wow, this guy was fabulous. You know, he was great. You know, we got Timothy in, you know, from the Eagles, you know, sang on it, and you know, he was a great guy. So there were a lot of good experiences, and it was, you know, it's the way life is. You know, there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad. But in the meantime, the new president pretty much said, "We're not promoting this record." And they changed the name of the group. You know, we were the Cryers. They put the band together, but it was a band. I wanted a band, you know, and we were a band. And so they came to us before the second record and said, we want you to change it to Lowry Hamner and the Cryers because we feel like we can sell that.
Oh boy.
And we said, "We don't want to do it." And they said, "Well, we're not going to promote it then. It's not going to get pushed." And so we talked amongst ourselves and we said, "Well, Jesus, what are we going to do? You know, like, okay, put Lowry. That's how that happened. It wasn't like me, or it wasn't anybody in the group.
I thought you were demanding that it was Lowry Hamner.
No.
No,
it was painful. It was a painful thing to go through, and it made me feel terrible to tell you.
It had to have. It had to have.
But you know, the thing is, the lead singer and the songwriter gets most of the. It's like a quarterback. The quarterback gets most of the attention. You know, it's the guard that keeps a guy off him.
Absolutely.
You know? But the quarterback, you know, and it's the same thing. The lead guitar, basically, the lead guitar and the lead singer and songwriters, they're the guys. You know.
Yeah.
And so that's the way it was, and so that's the way it went down, and then so that's why it was Lowry Hamner, the Criers.
So what happens now? Unfortunately we have to wrap it up. But what happens next? You guys, Mercury decides that they no longer want you on the roster.
No, what happens next? And this happens with a lot of people too. Okay, how much time do we have? Just so I can.
Yeah, just
okay. I'll make it quick. But here's what happens. What happens is you get put on ice again, where the record gets put out. I mean, I'll show you. Okay, I'll show you something. You had an English. And to the guy that wrote in, I don't know how to respond on this, but no, it's not a Dane Electro. It's
that was Andy.
Oh, okay.
Andy. He wanted to know if that was a mini baby sitar.
Yeah, no, it's an Epiphone, basically a violin bass.
Yeah,
and there's a Telecaster, and I assume that's what he's seeing. I'm not sure because there's some guitars. I have them just around.
It's probably what's right behind.
But anyway, so an English guy did something at first. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the English release. I never saw this till years later.
Oh, wow.
I don't have that. I've never.
You're trying to fool, and I want you tonight.
Okay.
Flip side, B side.
Yeah.
And if you look at this, when I looked at it, I was like, well, that's kind of crazy, but I see where. But then when you look closely, it's a guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a guy. Yeah.
I was about to ask for her number. Now I'm.
My God! Just to show how much control you have over things. And here's the Dutch, in Holland.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be a Hershberger.
Similar to the album cover, yeah.
And Mick Rock did the photos, and we had fabulous photos that were so much better than the record. We didn't want that picture and all that on the record. And Mick, was going along with it. And then Mick said, no, it looks kind of like the Talking Heads one I did. So the ones we picked. So anyway, that went out the window. But what happens is you get put on ice. So it goes out, but it doesn't get promoted. You still don't really go on you don't get the. So we said, okay, so we moved out to California for just temporarily. I mean, we stayed in New York, but we lived in California for about 8 months with Daryl Verduzco, the drummer. And we just played LA and the surrounding areas, just getting gigs, ourselves, just getting gigs and stuff. And we had offers then. A guy named John Staines. I don't know if you know the name John Staines, but John Staines is a guy. He's an Englishman. Wonderful guy. Great guy. I love John Staines. John Staines, we were trying to get off Mercury. We said, let us go. Just give us a release. Just release us. They refused. But they weren't going to let us record or anything. They weren't going to do anything. They put you on ice where you can't.
That was what happened to Boston. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And because what they do is they say, okay, I'm not going to let the former guy get credit, but I'm not going to let him go and then let him, like, if it happens with another label, I'm going to look even worse. So they put you on ice. Anyway, John Staines comes and he says, man, you guys are fabulous. He saw us a few times around LA and he came and he said, I work with Phonogram and I would love to sign you guys. So we said, John, let's all get a drink, So we sit down and we say, John, we're signed to Phonogram. We're signed to Mercury.
I was going to say,
Mercury Records. And he goes, what? And I went, we're signed to Mercury. We're on ice. We can't. They won't do anything. We're dead. We're dead in the water. To this guy's credit, he said, oh my God. So he goes and he checks it out and he comes back and he says, well, you're right. It's a bad situation. So he said, if there's ever anything I can do for you, you let me know. And I said, John, there is something you could do for us if you can. Can you get us off of Mercury? And this was sometime later.
Mm-hmm.
This was after a good while. And he said, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can to get it done. It took a year or two, and he got it done, and we got released. I mean, then it was like, it's kind of like, well, but, John Staines, I love you, brother. I love you, man. He was a stand-up guy. He's the guy that discovered Dire Straits in England and signed them to Phonogram.
Yeah.
Mercury turned Dire Straits down.
Yeah.
They turned them down. They went to Warner Brothers. I mean, it's like, you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
You guys know.
It's all too familiar. Yeah, indeed. I mean, yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. We sit here going, yep.
Yeah. And so after a while, I just said, you know what? I love music. I'm sticking with music. I think I'm going to drop the business part. Yeah. Music business, I don't know if those two go together for me, So I think I'm just going to take a little walk from the business, and I think I'm just going to do music, and that's what I did, And
how did the rest of the band feel about that decision?
By then it disintegrated because Lee had already left because he was supposed to have 2 or maybe 3 songs on the first album, and Steve said, "No, you're not going to have. You're only going to have 1, and we're going to take." I'm on Fire from the CI. That was recorded in CI. That was our demo, one of our demos. So that shows you how good, they were good. I think they were good anyway. So Lee, after a while, he said, even though he was going to get 2 or 3 songs or who knows how many on the second record, but he just, you know how it is anyway. The other guys just peeled off, kind of, and Clay was the last, Clay and I played together for a while in some different little iterations. I had one song that, Atlantic got real interested in, some guys, and I don't know. I was like, I don't know,
Yeah.
So, but
you're still.
Oh, I still do it.
Making music, you're still doing your thing.
Still putting stuff out. Still doing
stuff out. When was the Merry Christmas? Everyone's a Child. This night. When did you put that out?
Well, it escaped. I didn't really put it out, but I put it out 2 weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Oh wow.
I mean, what happened was I recorded the whole thing myself, and I had to figure out how to play everything, And anyway, by the time I finished it and mixed it and did all that and mastered it, and again, it was a learning process. It took forever to do. I mean, to be honest, but it was Christmas then. It was. I mean, it was December, so
right. Yeah.
You need to a little lead time with this stuff, and nobody's promoting it or
sure.
So I just said the heck with it. I'm just gonna put it out and see what happens. And so that's what I did. So it's brand spanking new.
Here we go.
Oh, here we go. All right.
Just a little.
It's a little power pop.
When it snows where we come from, there's a perfect light. Christmas snow and mistletoe, everyone's a child this night.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
you still got the voice.
You still got it. I just wanted to play a little clip of that so everybody knows.
Oh, I appreciate it.
It's out there under Lowry Hamner on YouTube as well, and go check it out, everybody. That's fantastic.
Right. Before we go, Lowry, I have to ask you this: I'm probably going to get a sarcastic answer, but that's okay. I'm walking into it. But what would it take to make a Criers reunion happen, like a reunion show?
Wow. Honest to God, I would do it. Clay might do it. I don't know if Tommy would do it. I'm sure Lee probably wouldn't do it. And drummers, Billy Bentz was the drummer. When we went to New York, we didn't have a drummer, so we got Billy in New York, and then later, the guys, for whatever reason, they wanted to get rid of him. I loved Billy. I thought he was a really good drummer, and I loved him as a person. Everybody else had problems for whatever, I don't know. But anyway, then we got Daryl Verduzco out in L.A. who plays, he plays with Mickey Thomas now with Starship. He's played with Ry Cooder, Hyatt. I mean, he's a pro. He's a great drummer. Daryl would probably be up. I mean, he might be up for it. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know. It's very hard to say.
We'll need to talk.
David,
yeah, we can talk.
He's got the wheels turning.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do a duo or a trio or who knows. And the guy Pat Morrissey, who I met in the CBGB's day, and auditioned to be the drummer. Well, Clay didn't, want him to be the. Clay was the drum, he had it with the drummers, So he got me in a lot of trouble with some people too, because there were people I liked and they think that I did it, and it wasn't me, guys, But anyway, he played on some of my solo stuff. Drummer, played drums, and I think he would definitely do it. So I don't know. We'll see.
Sounds like there's a making of a.
We'll talk.
That would be great. Awesome.
Anyway, we better hit it. We've gone well over our allotted time, but every second was worth it.
Didn't I tell you, Lowry, it would go like that?
Wow, this was so much fun.
Thank you guys so much, because it's a pleasure to. I'm just, it's so nice of you that you asked.
Yeah, thank you.
And I've had a ball, and it's so nice to meet you guys, because I know of you, through Facebook and through names and through, but it's so nice to connect and actually see that. What nice guys, like, wow, are you sure you're in the record business?
I never thought of myself as being in the industry, even doing this festival. It was never, it's always been a labor of love for me, always been about music. So no, I'm not in the record business. Far from it.
Mark did a great job. He put some record, he has a record label, and
thank you. Yeah.
He's not in the record business either. It's all about the love for him.
Yeah. The truth is, there's some great people in the record business.
Sure.
There's some amazing people. The good people are great.
Gary Stewart was one of them.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. See, I never knew him, but I knew his work. I sure knew all that stuff he was doing. Man, he was,
Well, and that's why we do Material Issues, because not only are there great people like yourself, Lowry, but there's a lot of great stories that we just love to hear, and we love to archive and document, because this is going to be here on Facebook Archives, on YouTube Archives. It'll be on the Podbean, because everybody can hear this for many, many years to come. So we appreciate you hanging out with us, my friend. And
absolutely, absolute pleasure. And we hope you have a wonderful Christmas, you and your family.
Thank you. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and happy holidays. And
thank you, Lowry. I'm sure David's going to stay in touch, but you have a great Christmas, and stay happy and stay healthy, because you've already had all the all the crap. Now just enjoy yourself. All right?
We're in the clear now. We're good. Good. Thank you, guys.
Have a great night, Lowry.
We'll see you soon.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Well, there you go, David. That was our holiday spectacular. That was
it's amazing. The last three interviews, especially, have just
unbelievable.
People who really, you can tell they still have the love for whatever it was they did, even even going through some of the the hellacious record business stuff. But they retain they retain the essence of what got them into it in the first place, the love for it, and that's it's wonderful to have people who really want to talk about and have the ability to recall some of these amazing stories. So,
well, we really hit it out of the park. You said 3 in a row with Rocky Burnett, Bergen White, and now Lowry Hamner. So, we're going to end up the year next week with our final show of this year, which would be episode number 84. Who we got going on that episode, David?
Well, we've got, and I always show this, and I should also perhaps show this, if I can find it immediately. Where'd it go? Oh, here we go. This is a man who, in the 60s, was a road manager for several cool bands in the UK, one of which was the Montanas, and this is a brand new compilation of pretty much all their stuff, 60s and 70s. As I mentioned before, they were kind of the poor man's Hollies in that they didn't have any hits really, but they were wonderful and had that same kind of sound. And then of course the big one, The Move. This is a Japanese box set that I got a few weeks ago, which has everything they did up until and not including Message from the Country, because they switched labels at that point.
Right.
But yeah, this is it's got all kinds of stuff. Anyway, our guest did do road work for these two bands and several others, and he's a very ebullient guy. He will have amazing stories for us. His name's John Kirby, and like I said, he'll have story after story about working for and with these bands, and it'll be outrageous. So we're really looking forward.
Great way to end up the year. Holy cow! Yeah, fantastic.
And then we still have irons in the fire. We may just do an episode with you and I, so we can get back, especially in the beginning of 2023. We can talk about some of the the best. Yeah. Oh, see, there he is. Yes. I actually told that story in the beginning, Barry.
Yeah.
About how I came to get this shirt and mentioned you. But anyway, we can talk about some of the 2022 issues, some of the best of current and reissue. And we can maybe do a Stump the Bash. I've had a few requests offline for more of those, but these guests have been just too good. I can't follow. We can't follow this for the Stump the Bash. We can't bring we can't bring it down to mediocrity. So,
but it's true. People have been clamoring for it. So we'll have an opportunity in the new year to do.
Yeah, we'll do at least one episode with one or two and with no guests. We can entertain you for an hour. It's no problem. We do have some irons in the fire, some potentially pretty cool guests. Not all of them in the music realm, but will still be great nonetheless if we can get them. And so we'll see what happens.
This has been a wonderful holiday episode.
It really has.
We wish everybody a great holiday season. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Everything, whatever you celebrate, just celebrate it with the ones that you love, whether you're with people. And if you're by yourself, just be grateful and thankful for the little things. And if you're really feeling down, you can drop us a line and we'll be happy to talk and say.
Absolutely. I'm going to give a couple of birthday shout outs. One to, and it's his birthday today, to our good friend. He's been a guest on Material Issues. He's written books on power pop. So many of us know and love him. Yes, I have, Barry. I love them. Trying to get them to IPO maybe one day. Anyway, happy birthday, John Borak.
John Borak.
Yes. Yeah. And then tomorrow, some guy that I know a little bit, some guy from, I don't know, is it Delaware or? Oh no, it's New Jersey.
Is he over here?
I don't know. I don't know where he is. Oh, there he is.
Oh, hey.
Tomorrow, it's my good friend and co-host Mark Hershberger's birthday.
Thank you so much.
Happy 45th.
Thank you very, very much. Well, okay, 44, but it's all right. It's okay. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, the big 6-1 tomorrow. I know.
Are you doing anything exciting or?
I've got another basketball game to call tomorrow night. As you know, I do. Thank you, Barry. I do the play-by-play announcing for Haddonfield High boys and girls varsity basketball. We had a packed house last night. It was breathing room only for a rivalry. That's why my voice is a little because I was But yeah, I got 8 games next week, 2 days of Christmas tournaments. So in between the John Kirby show, I'll be doing 4 games a day.
Wow,
it'd be crazy.
Holy crap!
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
No,
But
that sounds like fun.
So that's what I'm doing, and then of course it's the holiday weekend, so we're into that. But thank you, my friend. Thank you.
All right, well, enjoy your birthday, and of course, we'll speak, but Merry Christmas, obviously, to you and your family, and to Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. Merry. Have a great one, everybody. Good night, David.
Good night, Mark.